Now, I wanted to explain a little bit of metabolism so you see where this is all going, more of why insulin, what it does, but also more about the process so that we talk about later how things can go wrong in the process. Okay? So in this diagram here, what it's showing is that sugar is being pushed into the cell. That little red ribbon at the top on the left there where it says the cell is coming from the bloodstream into the cell. And insulin is the thing pushing the sugar into the cell. And sugar's got to get into the cell to be turned into energy, right? Once it gets in the cell, it has to get into what's called the mitochondria. Mitochondria are just little tiny cells. They're almost like mini cells inside a cell. And when you feed those mitochondria sugar and oxygen, they kick out energy, okay? And they need thyroid hormone. Thyroid hormone is pushing, just like insulin is pushing sugar into the cell, thyroid hormone is pushing the oxygen and sugar into the mitochondria so that it can make energy. So the more mitochondria you have, the more energy you burn, the higher your metabolism is. So if we were to pull a little muscle cell from Michael Phelps, we're going to see tons of mitochondria. And when we pull one from Dr. Antrona, probably not so many mitochondria, okay? And so the number of mitochondria, some of it could potentially be genetic, and a lot of it has to do with exercise. You know, there's arguments about that. Is it, do people become athletes because they have a lot of mitochondria already, and it's easier for them to have big energy outputs? Or do we develop these more because we've been putting out big energy outputs and we created the mitochondria ourselves? There's arguments about that. I'm sure there's some genetic controls in there, but it's also probably highly affected by diet and lifestyle exercise. So that's what's kind of going on, all right? If the sugar does not get into the mitochondria because there's no thyroid hormone there, then it's going to go out as fat. If the insulin, you have diabetes, and insulin doesn't get the sugar into the cell, it's going to have to go back to the bloodstream, and that's going to have to be made into fat. So those things are going to stop you from burning fat as easy. They're going to make you low energy. They're going to make your metabolism very slow, okay? Much slower than the average. Another thing I wanted you to be aware of is that not all of our sugar is stored as fat, okay? We have to have some ready access sugar that we need right now to do our activity, for me to move my muscles and walk around, for me to talk and all this. I'm constantly using sugar to do this, and so, or to make that energy and keep that going. And so we already have to have sugar ready to go. And we keep sugar ready to go in our muscles, right where we're going to use it, and in our liver stores quite a bit of it, okay? And we're actually storing this as something called glycogen, okay? And glycogen is basically sugar stuck together with water molecules. So your body's taking sugar and a water molecule and sticking it together, and that's how it's holding them in these long chains in our muscles in our liver, so that we can just break them off really easy when we need energy, if I were to have to run right now. And we keep about 2 to 3 days worth of this ready access sugar in our body at all times. So that's something getting lost and replaced, you know, that's where that 30 grams, you know, about 20-30 grams a meal is going to replenish that ready access sugar, okay? And this is important to weight loss for a couple of reasons. One is, have you ever lifted a jug of water? Water is super heavy, right? And so if you have a ton of water holding all this sugar together, 3 days worth of sugar in your body, it's going to be heavy. And it's like, the average person, I would guess it's about, on average, maybe 3 to 5 pounds, okay? And so what happens is when we starve ourselves of sugar, let's say I'm not going to eat sugar, Dr. Antrona's was bad. Now, I want to clarify, probably right now would be a perfect time to clarify that eating sugar isn't bad. Eating more sugar than your body can tolerate is bad, okay? But let's say you were to say, you know what, I'm going to do the Atkins. I'm going to just not eat sugar at all, okay? So day one happens, you stop eating sugar, right? You're only eating protein and fat. Your body's going to need that energy, right? So it's going to start having to draw off of this glycogen. So it's going to start breaking off these chains of glycogen and using that sugar. And then when it does that, you're also releasing water, right? Because the water was there holding it together like glue. So you'll find you probably urinate a lot. Like the first couple of days that you're not eating sugar, you're urinating a lot, okay? And it's because all this water is coming off that you were using to hold sugar that you don't have now. And when that happens, that's what we talk about losing water weight, gaining water weight. So let's say you did it for a day or two, you would lose like 3 to 5 pounds possibly very quickly, okay? And it's like, whoa,